It's Super Videos back at you for another weekly Q&A. This is going to be Q&A number 24. As always, if you're not caught up with The Walking Dead's TV show or comic book, you may not want to watch this video because things may be spoiled for you. So that being said, let's get right into this. Let's start with The Walking Dead show questions. The first question comes from Clay Brazil, and they ask, do you think we will ever see Mikey, who is Nicholas's son again, from season 5? I think it's way past the time that we could actually see Mikey back. I do agree with you that we did need to see him, especially after Nicholas's death, and it would have added a lot of depth in story for Nicholas and people at Alexandria, and also it would have made Alexandria more thick in terms of the people living there, so we would get to see people we don't usually see and spend some time with the people we don't usually spend time with. The only Alexandrians at this point we really know are Tobin, Francine, Eric, Aaron, people like that. So seeing other minor characters from Alexandria would be good, but at this point I don't think we will see any of them, especially Mickey that you're talking about here. The next question comes from Final Mystery T, and he actually has a couple questions. The first one is, should Rosita have gotten the Lucille treatment for attempting to kill Negan? No, I don't think so. I think for Negan it's all about the intimidation factor and making people feel guilty for doing something. For example, back in the premiere, when Daryl punched him in the face, he could have easily had him Lucilled or have Dwight kill him, but he didn't. Now you may say that he took an interest to Daryl because he wanted to turn him into a savior, but I think that's one component of it. I think the main reason why he didn't kill Daryl was because he wanted him to feel responsible for Glenn's death. So he didn't kill Daryl, he killed Glenn instead, so that Daryl would forever carry that burden with him and feel shame because he got Glenn killed. So it's all about the intimidation factor and making them blame themselves for their actions. So in this case, Negan didn't kill Rosita because he wanted her to feel responsible for whoever Arat killed, which ended up being Olivia. The next question he has is, does the Arat character have the potential to grow? I personally like her and wish she becomes more relevant. What's your thoughts? I definitely do agree with you. She's an interesting character. She's an interesting side villain along with Dwight and the other ones. In terms of how far I think she's gonna live, I think she's gonna be a long-standing survivor because she is the replacement of Comic Tara, who's another savior. So they just changed the name, but it's the same character, and Tara from the comics is still alive to this day. So that's why I think Arat is also gonna be surviving for a long time. The next question is, if Negan ever kills Daryl with Lucille, would the shockwave factor be a benefit for the show in interest and ratings wise? I think it would be a bad move at this point to Lucille Daryl. Yeah, if he was the first Lucille victim, it would have been perfect. And even though it would have some negatives, it would have a lot more benefits. But at this point, I think since we've already seen a Lucille death, or 2 Lucille deaths to be more specific, I don't think we do need to see Daryl get Lucilled. I think the best thing for them to do is have Daryl die during the war doing something heroic, if they're ever gonna kill him off. So I think in terms of interest-wise and ratings-wise, it would be a bad move for the writers to have Daryl get Lucilled. The next question comes from Gavin Cottrill, and he asks, do you think Ezekiel and Rosita will outlast their comic book deaths? For Rosita, I think she's not gonna outlast her death. I feel like they're gonna have her die earlier during the war maybe. So she's definitely not gonna outlast her death in the comics. She's gonna short-live her death in the comics. Now for Ezekiel, I really can't tell what they're gonna do with Ezekiel because we haven't really seen much from him, but I would love to see Ezekiel survive, even though that death from the comics for Ezekiel was iconic and it was big. I feel like it's a bit obvious for them to have the same one, and I love Ezekiel's character. I want to see more from him. I hope he outlasts his comic death. You have another question? Do you think Sasha will get the Holly death because she got a role in the new Star Trek show as the main character? I think Sasha is probably gonna die sometime during season 8 or maybe at the end of season 7, but I don't think she's gonna get the Holly death. She could, obviously, but I feel like they're gonna give the Holly death to someone else. I'm thinking Tara. But it could be Sasha, but I feel like it's probably gonna be Tara. Coming back to you saying that because she got a role in the new Star Trek show as the main character, that means she's gonna die. That does raise some red flags, but doesn't necessarily mean she's gonna die. Just to put that out there. The next question comes from 0718 Dragon Lord, and he asks, if you could save Abraham or Glenn, meaning if you could only have one of them get Lucilled in the show, which one would you pick? I love both Abraham and Glenn, and I don't think I would ever be able to just pick one of them to die. But in terms of storytelling and which one would make the most sense, and thinking about the comics, I think it would have been better for the writers at that time to just have Glenn die. It's predictable, but it applies the most, and it's the saddest death in my opinion. And also, you know my opinions about the double death. You know what I feel about that, so I'm not gonna go into that here. As a writer, who would I pick? I would pick Glenn. But in terms of if I was Negan, who would I pick? I would probably pick Abraham, because he's the strongest, most intimidating person in the lineup, and I would want him gone. But at the same time, if I was Negan, I would also want to kill Rick as well. But I love Negan's mentality about this, that he doesn't want to turn Rick into a martyr. So in those terms, I would definitely shy away from killing Rick and maybe go with Abraham if I was Negan. So now let's move on to The Walking Dead show and comic questions. The first one comes from Jiggy the Goose Cohen. He actually asked 2 questions. The first one, do you think Mario Bello will play Alpha since she's confirmed to join The Walking Dead Season 8? I would say it's too early for Alpha to be in Season 8. So because of that, I'm gonna say no. I think Alpha is probably gonna appear sometime in Season 9. I could definitely see them show her in an after credits or something like that, in the finale of Season 8 or something like that. And if that's what you're referring to, that she's gonna be in Season 8 meaning like that, then sure, yeah. She could definitely be in Season 8. Now, I don't know much about Maria Bello, so I don't know if she's a good fit or not. The next question you have is, do you think Odette Annabelle is a perfect fit to play the role of Magna? She definitely could be a good fit. Now, in terms of looks, they don't really look alike, but you could go with Odette Annabelle for Magna. Why not? The next question comes from Chaos with a 0 instead of an O, and they ask, do you think Negan may die? If so, by who? I think he's not dying anytime soon in the show, but in the comics, he may die soon, probably in the next 30, 40 issues. Now, in terms of by the hands of who, I can't really answer that at the moment. I don't know what they're doing with Negan still. I don't know if he's still gonna side with the survivors or not, but if he's gonna die by the hands of someone from the surviving group, I would have to say either Rick or Maggie. Now let's move on to The Walking Dead's comic questions. The first one comes from Jiggy the Goose Cohen, and he asks, I just wanted to clarify in the comic book why Rick didn't kill Negan after All Out War. Well, mainly because Rick wanted Negan to live to see Alexandria rebuild itself and become stronger and better. And it's like a symbol of the life before. So he's trying to restore civilization to an extent as well. The next question comes from 0718 Dragon Lord. You have 2 questions. The first one, what threat would you want the group to face next after the Whisper War? And if the Sherry problem is miraculously solved? I don't want another war. Definitely not. I think after this war ends, we need to see the pieces put together in terms of the survivors rebuilding themselves, and of course there's going to be the radio group, so they're going to have a big part in the next arc as well. But in terms of the group I want them to face next, I don't want them to face another villain. I just want them to go back to surviving a little bit, have walkers become more of a factor again, and have them try to find a new community or something like that. The next question you have is, what if the Whispers showed up around the same time as Negan and the Saviors? Do you think Negan and Rick would have formed an alliance against them or deal with them on their own? That's a great question. I feel like they would probably deal with it together. Now, it all depends on if they would see them as big of a threat as they do now. If they did, then Rick would definitely side with Negan because of the numbers Negan has to take care of these Whispers. And for Negan, I think he would have the same mentality. He would get Rick and all of the other communities to join him, even if it means losing his overall power just a little bit, just to deal with these whispers because of how much of a threat they are. Now, if they didn't see the whispers as this much of a threat, then they would definitely try to deal with them on their own. And they would only make an alliance once they lose people and realize how big of a threat the whispers really are. The last question comes from Daily Dead Nation, and he asks, do you think the whispers will be introduced second half of season 7? Nope, it's way too early for that. Like I said previously, I think it's gonna be probably season 9. Maybe we'll see a glimpse of them in the after credits of season 8, but sooner than that, definitely not. That's it for this Q&A video. Thanks for participating. If you want to participate in my next Q&A video, leave your questions in the comment section below. Make sure to put Q&A before your comments. And if you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.